Hello everyone. In today's video we will be covering case number 38 from the speed solving wiki, and that's when you have your corner in a slot that's positioned correctly and your edges flipped incorrectly. And how we're going to approach this case is there's quite a few things that you can do, and I will be addressing in this video the use of empty slots, because if you can recognize that this is an empty slot and you don't care about it, then there's a faster way to solve this than what you normally would do. So what we will do is we will look at the case and we will determine if it is an oriented position or if it is a non-oriented position. So we'll look at where the pair is, and then we'll determine how to solve the case based on where that pair is. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is when you have empty slots in this case, because honestly if you see this slot is empty or this slot is empty, it's just faster to use the empty slot to pair this case up. And how you do that is if this slot back here is empty, it's not a solved slot, what you'll do is you'll take this corner piece and you'll put it where this corner piece is. So you would do one of those moves. And what that does is that just puts junk right here so you can do whatever you want with this slot. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to flip this edge, and how you do that is you perform a sledgehammer and then reinsert the piece into the slot, and then you would redo your D move, and that would solve your case. So again, if this is the empty slot that you care about, you would D it over, sledgehammer, insert, and then D it back with this finger back here, because it's sitting right here, and then that will solve your case. The other way that you can do it is if this slot is empty, you can D it this way. So all we're really doing is we're looking at one of these two slots and seeing if they're empty slots. And if they are, just move that corner underneath your slot, perform the flip algorithm, take it out, flip your corner, or flip your edge piece, and then redo your D move, and that will solve your pair into the slot. So that's if you have an empty slot available. It's one of the better ways to do it. And how you would finger trick this is you would take your ring finger, slide over, and then you're going to hedge slammer, insert, and then re-D with this one. And that's your insert. Now this only works if the slot is in, or if the pair is in the slot that you care about. If it's not in the same slot, then you need to do something else. And we'll go over that here in a minute. But if you have an empty slot, it's a lot faster to use the empty slot. So if it's this one, you would D over, perform the flip, and then D back the other way. So if you have a pair in a slot and the edge piece is oriented correctly, well, all we have to do basically is when we flip this around, then your edge piece is going to be oriented correctly. So we just need to fix the top. And this only works is if this back piece is not solved, but it won't be solved because if this piece goes here, then it's not going to be a solved case. So what we're going to do is we're going to perform an R2, U2, R2 again, and then now you can see they're kind of on the same plane, so we can move this over 1, and that makes our pair. So we're still here. We're going to move the R over 1. We're going to fix our cross. Well, fix the side of our cross. We're going to do one more R move, and then now you can tell we can just back this piece right in, and then one more R move will solve the case. So if you notice that your edge piece is oriented correctly, you can perform this trick. And it only works if this back slot's empty, but again, it will be empty. So if you are here, then this won't work because this back slot might not be empty. If it is, then you can use it and still make a pair, but if it isn't, then don't use this, you'll have to do something else. So again, in this case, we will U2, or R2, U2, R2, and that will solve that case. And that only works if you need to move the pair from the front to the back. And it works the other way too. If you perform the inverse of the moves, that you can, if the pair is supposed to be here in a solved state and it's here, well then you can move it here by doing the opposite of that, or the back version of that. So, but if you want to move the pair from here to here, what we'll do is we will regrip, and that will solve that case. One more time. we're just going to, and when we grip, so if you're doing it this way, we're going to regrip like this, so our pinky is towards the empty slot. So if we're moving it from here to here, we will grip like this. And that way you can, so if you move it here to here, you're grabbing it and you're putting your pinky on the empty slot. So let's say we want to move it back here. What we'll do is we will grab it so our pinky is over the empty slot. And that'll solve the case. So that's if you have an empty slot, or if it's oriented and you need to move it from here to here or here to here. The same thing applies when you want to move it to the left or to the right. So if this is where it is and this is where it needs to go, then you would do the same thing. You would just do your fingering a little different. So you would regrip and you would F2, U2, F2, then one U will make your pair, one more U, fix your cross piece, one more, and then you push, and that's your, so that's if you're moving it here to here. If you don't have any empty slots available, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the orientation of this piece and where the piece goes. When we pull this piece out, we're going to lift the slot up, perform a U-move, and then lower the slot so that it breaks up the pair. And if we know our case as well, this case is an easy regripless case to do. It's the non-oriented version of this case. So from here, this is not oriented. We're going to separate them, perform that insert, and that's your solution for that case. So again, do that. You have this case here. We will break it up, and then we can perform this case without any regrips at all or any rotations. So the opposite of that is if it's over here. So if this case is here, it's a non-oriented edge piece and it needs to go in the back, then what we're going to do is we're just going to separate them and then set up that case that we just did, and then we can solve that case like that. And it's still regripless, it's still relatively quick to do. And the other way that you can do this case is if you separate it the same way, if you get into the top layer and separate it the same way by doing this, well, you notice that this piece is oriented, so we can do it in 2 generations of movement. So we do that. We know this is the oriented version of this case, so we can lower this, U2, and then now it's an easy cert in the back to solve that case. So again, we can just make that case, and then it's just lowering this, U2ing, fixing it, and then inserting it in the back. There's one other way that you can solve this case, and that's when it is in the slot that it's supposed to go in. So instead of, and you don't have any empty slots available to you. So if all these slots are already taken up, then you can't use the corner, the keyhole method. So what we're going to do is we're going to regrip. We're going to R2, U2. We're going to perform a front move. We're going to R2 again, and then perform an F prime move with our pinky, and then U2. And then when we do one R prime, and that solves the pair, and then you can slide it into the slot to make your block, and then one more will solve it. So again, that's, and you can do this from any angle as well, so you can transpose this to the back or the left or the right versions. So, and I find this a pretty fun case to do. I still prefer the keyhole if I have it, or that one. So if I prefer making this case and solving that case, just for me it's an easier thing to do, but this is a fun way to solve this case. So you would regrip, you R2, U2, F, R2, F prime, U2, and then you have here's your easy case. So from here your R prime, U, R prime solves it for you. So it's regripless. It's mostly regripless. You have to do that initial regrip like this, and then spin, spin, and then this front move to anti-front, or F prime, then 2. So it's fun to do. It's relatively quick. I still like that one the best, where you take it out and you solve this case. So if it is a non-oriented version of this case, you know how to solve that because we went over that in one of the other videos. If it is a oriented version of this case, if it goes back here, well, you can do the R2, U2, R2, U, and you can do that one pretty quickly. But if you just want to stay with separating it and making this case, then you can, and it's easy to do that because you know that this is an oriented edge, so you know it's twogenable, so you can take it out, pair it up, and insert it like that. So I think overall this is a very, very fun case. There's a whole bunch of ways to do it, and I'll go over all those cases here in a second. Okay, so a quick summary. If you want to use the keyhole, if this one's empty or this one's empty, what we're going to do is we're just going to put the corner underneath it. We're going to perform a flip algo, and then undo your D move. So again, that's D, flip, undo your D. That's all it's case. If you don't have an empty slot, we can regrip, R2, U2, F. That'll solve the case. Or we can break it out like that and then solve it like that. So we're just making another case out of it. So we're making this case out of it, and then you can solve that case regriplessly. So that also works if it's in the back. So we notice that this is if it's like this, it's a non-oriented case. So we will separate it and then create this case, and then we can solve it. So it's one U2 away. The other ways to do this is if you want to move the case from here to here, you can do the R2, U2, R2, and then line your cross up, and then one more, and you can back it in and lower it. And that works pretty much with any direction. So if you want to move it from here to here, well, if you want to move it here, you know this one's going to be empty anyway, so you don't have to care. So you can move it from here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here. So the only way that I haven't really figured out a good way to do it is if you need to move it from here to here. And in that case, look at the orientation of the piece, because if it's not oriented, we're going to separate it, and then we can solve like we normally would. So I think this is a very, very fun case. It's a little more complicated than the other ones, but there's a lot of different ways that you can solve it, and it's a pretty fun case overall. So the next set of case we're going to do is case number 39 and 40 from the Speed Solving Wiki, and that's when you have your pair in the slot, but your corner piece is turned sideways. So these don't match up, so these are not the same color. You have kind of changing colors here. So that's what we will handle in the next video. If you have any questions or comments on the case that we just covered, leave them in the comment description below. And until the next video, happy cubing, everyone!